Welcome to the bizval podcast. At bizval, we are passionate about empowering entrepreneurs the world over to understand and unlock the value in their business. We work with advisors and entrepreneurs to demystify the value creation process when building a business. At bizval, we know how tough it is to grow and run a business, which is exactly why we've made valuation simple to understand, accurate, and affordable. Our unique blend of tech and touch ensures that you always receive the best service, authentic human engagement, and data-led insights to ensure that you build a business that provides you with freedom and choice. In the bizval podcast, we showcase stories of real entrepreneurs and advisors, sharing lessons and inspiration from their journeys to make your journey just that little bit easier. Today, we've got somebody truly special joining us. Erika Moralez Perez. I think I got that right. And she's the founder and CEO of the Iconos Group. Erika's had an incredible journey from corporate business management through to becoming a lawyer, entrepreneur, or I should say solicitor, barrister, depending where in the world you're sitting, and a purpose-driven leader. So Erika, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Graham. It's really good to be here.
Fantastic. And for our listeners, you're based in the UK and you can't see it because you've got a background on, but I understand you're sitting in sunny Spain at the moment.
Yes, I am. I'm very lucky to be here. So the background's hiding what would otherwise be very sunny indeed.
I think you'd make everyone jealous if you had the real background. So. Anyway, Erika, we're just going to chat a bit about your career, your purpose, and all of that. So I think let's start a little bit with your story. I mean, you're now a lawyer, and I'm going to use the colloquial term. But before that, you spent nearly a decade in corporate roles at some global tech giants, the likes of Microsoft, Samsung, HP. Before you went into law, how did that experience shape you?
I did indeed, absolutely. So I came to law from a slightly different background, as you pointed out. It shaped me in a way that law could not have done. There were a couple of things. Firstly, I came to law as a much older trainee than your average, fresh out of university. So that made a big difference because I had a lot of life experience behind me by then. And then it actually taught me how businesses truly operate. So we can teach people commercial law at law school. We can't teach people how commercial businesses operate. So in terms of the commercial pressures facing businesses, how you deal with those, internal politics, building relationships with clients, with customers, with partners, with suppliers, and actually the thrust of the negotiation and what we actually do in business looks completely different to how it looks in theory from a legal perspective. So it really gave me a very rounded perspective by the time I came to qualify as a lawyer.
That's a really interesting backstory. You say, I was reading something the other day, and about, let's call it, straight out of university graduates having all the theory but no practice. And one of the questions one of my good friends Garth always says is to ask somebody, is like, what have you built, or what have you done? And I think that's so important, is to have that practical experience. I think you in the UK, I'm sitting in South Africa, we do a lot of work in the US, and I think there's a tendency in some countries that you have to specialize and focus as soon as you come out of school, pick your career path. And that's one of the differences, I guess, in the US is you don't necessarily specialize straight away. You do a social sciences degree, bit of working experience, and then you go to law school or med school or specialize in that. So, I think there's definitely some merit and insight in actually doing something first. But I guess that's not the way the world's wired. You then made the decision. Okay, so you've got a successful career, probably on CEO track and along those lines, or COO track. What made you make the bold move sort of mid-career to shift into law? What drove that decision?
Well, it sounds a little bit silly now when I say it out loud now, because I always wanted to be a lawyer. That was a childhood dream. And I'd kind of fallen into IT and ended up in these blue chip organizations, loved what I was doing because I loved dealing with the people. It was really exciting to be closing the deals. So I always say I'm a salesperson at heart. and I loved the cut and thrust of being there in the midst of it. But I still had,
Yeah.
I was left wanting, even all of the really great paid jobs in IT weren't enough to keep me interested. I've always been an individual that likes to learn, and I like to continually be pushing and stretching myself. So I thought, well, hey, I'll just do my law degree part-time in the evenings. So I did that, which I completed in my Microsoft days, actually. So it was a very tough final year, that's for sure. I did something silly like 12 international trips in 11 months, and that was during my final year at uni as well, which I just did in the evenings. So, and back then
Wow.
I had to go into London 3 nights a week as well. So I had to actually go to lectures because there were no online lectures back in those days. So it was, I've just made myself sound ancient, but so it's 3 days a week as well. So in between all the international travel and dealing with the partners that I was dealing with as part of my day job, I was going into London for 3 hours, 3 nights a week. So it was pretty tough. But I'm glad I did it again. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? So it did shape me, and it helped me to learn to focus my efforts where I needed to. So I definitely got a lot out of it. If I had my time again, I'd go to university and do it when I was young and when my parents were paying for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. My wife's also had a career change. She was a chartered accountant, and now she's a psychologist.
Oh,
And
wow.
I appreciate how tough that is. I don't know whether you had kids at the time and that, but trying to hold down a job, be a mom, be a wife, and change career paths. I mean, what were some of the challenges you had to go through? I mean, you spoke a bit about juggling your timetable, but emotionally that must have been quite tough as well.
Yeah, really tough because of course you have all the deadlines of your day job and your daily routine and life and keeping all those plates spinning, as you quite rightly point out, for that your wife has had to do as well. But you also have other deadlines, and you have exams, and you have papers that you have to get in, and then for me, like I said, I was traveling internationally at the time with my job. I have massive targets, so multi-million pound targets every year to hit in my job as well. And of course, my job paid for my studies. But emotionally, it was really tough. It was tough, I'm not going to lie. There was a lot of pressure. It was probably 20 hours of additional study a week on top of my day job, on top of the 9 hours a week I was having to physically be present in London at lectures. So, you're working a 40-hour week just in your day job, and then you're adding another 29 hours of other stuff. So you learn to be very focused, you learn to be very productive in the time that you've got, and you sleep little.
Yeah, I guess the added benefit is when you have a client or somebody telling you they don't have time or they can't fit it in or whatever, talking about that life experience. I mean, you can kind of turn around and say, "Hey, I've done it. This is how you do it." So it goes beyond just knowing the law. It's like, and nobody likes that in the business world, right? I mean, whether it's compliance or legal stuff or reading contracts, most business people are like, "Hey, we can do that later." But you've got the scars to prove that not just the law can be done, but actually the juggling and the prioritization and the focus to focus on the important things, I guess, is pretty important.
Absolutely. I'm a person who can squeeze a lot into a day.
I guess the question, you're sitting in Spain now, is can you fit the work and the tapas and the afternoon cocktails and all of that in?
Always.
um,
So there's always time for an afternoon cocktail. But actually, I mean, we laugh and joke, but it is, again, that kind of experience and that shaping of being able to prioritize. I've learned to really hone in on what needs to be done and what needs to be done now. And also that filters down into managing expectations of our suppliers and our clients as well. So, I like to under forecast, over deliver always. That's kind of always been my motto. So it's definitely shaped how I do things. And again, from a
yeah,
productivity perspective, it works much more effectively. So it's good.
absolutely. So you spoke a bit about, okay, so you've shifted into law. It was always a childhood dream. You kind of became, I would say, disillusioned, but it wasn't enough working in corporate IT. So you've gone back to study. Now, what next? Okay, so you kind of you've studied law. and you reimagine how you can do things differently. So maybe if you can just share with our listeners a little bit about the sort of Iconos story. What kind of made you reimagine the legal model? And how is that different to sort of the traditional approach to legal services?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So when I was working in IT, one of the things that we found most challenging as salespeople and business management individuals was the fact that there was a really big divide between the sales team and the legal teams. And quite often we would joke and we would call the legal team sales prevention, and tongue in cheek, because we all got on very well. But of course, they were so, particularly in blue chip organizations, there's lots of other factors. So there might be antitrust, your kind of competition law, we call it in the UK. So there are lots of other factors that play a part. But ultimately, I saw a gap in the market where we could bridge this disconnect and this gap between sales teams and legal teams. So I wanted to, and it's still my mission, and it's one of the core values that underpins Iconos, and really how Iconos was born was to change the view of lawyers one client at a time. And that's because we don't want to be seen as sales prevention. There is a world, I believe, where lawyers and salespeople can get on, but actually we have to take away some of this stigma that is attached to lawyers and legal advice that suggests that we want to prevent sales. That's not the case at all. We want to make sales happen. We want to make them happen more quickly, more efficiently, with more margin and more profit. But the way to do that is to making sure we've got really slick legal foundations and systems and processes to enable the sales teams and to empower them to just go out and sell. And that's really how Iconos was born. I saw this gap in the market. I thought we can do it differently. I still get the cut and thrust and the enjoyment of doing the deal, but I'm working with salespeople to deliver it.
That's fantastic. So basically, I mean, you're less reactive and more proactive, essentially.
Absolutely. And what we specialize in and how we differ to the average law firm is that we deliver what we call a managed legal service. So, some people might call it a subscription, but we have clients that use us. We are essentially outsourced counsel, but we act as their in-house legal team. And we just come in and we look at what they're doing and we improve their processes. We rewrite their documents if needed. And we make it easier for them to do deals. So what we end up with is salespeople that feel happy and confident to talk about contracts on the day they start talking to their customers about deals, not on the day before they're about to close the deal. So then all of that time that would otherwise delay them closing their deal no longer happens because they've already had the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's super in that philosophy. And I think when we first connected a few months ago, Erika, I mean, that's kind of what brought us together is that, at bizval, we've got a very similar approach. The big four audit firms and that when it comes to things like valuations, it's invariably compliance driven. We're doing this because we have to. It's the same as taxes and accounting and all those things. Whereas we wanted to flip that model on the head and say, hey, we're standing in the corner of the business owner or the entrepreneur, and we want to empower them and enable them to make better decisions and build better businesses. And you've taken that exact same philosophy and said, yeah, let's put it at the front of the process. Let's not make law this big scary thing. Let's talk to people in a language that they understand. Pre-show, we were joking around a bit in Latin. When
Absolutely.
When business only has Latin, they get scared. A lawyer
Quite.
really gets excited and they put their wig on. So.
And who wouldn't be scared off by Latin? I feel the same.
So we're going to get back to a little bit about Iconos just now, but so you didn't just qualify as law and then go and kind of work in a big law firm. Okay, that kind of would have defeated the object. You kind of made the leap into entrepreneurship. You started your own business. What made you take that leap? I mean, that must have also been quite scary. Having the safety and the security of a regular income, and that now you're going out there and starting your own thing. What drove that?
Yeah, so it was really scary actually, and I had a bit of a push. So I qualified into regional private practice, And that was an amazing experience for me because being a regional law firm, they were very appreciative and cognizant of my previous experience. And I was a much older, newly qualified solicitor. And they exposed me to some amazing stuff as well. So I got to be part of building their business plan, which of course was all of my previous experience, but I also had a better understanding because of their exposure to me of this, of how to run a law firm and some of the key considerations. So that piece that was missing in my experience, suddenly that gap was filled and I was getting the legal experience as well. So I spent 5 years with them and then I went out on my own. And I started off as a consultant, so I had a bit of backing in that sort of arena. But then I still, again, I had that feeling of being left wanting still, Graham, that perpetual feeling of pushing myself. I was still having to operate within the parameters of somebody else's vision, which just wasn't enabling me to deliver what I wanted to for my clients. So it was scary, but I took the leap, and once you step off the ledge, you're in it. You know how it is. So I just day by day, piece by piece, I just kind of went for it. And I was fortunate because I had some clients that I brought with me anyway. So I had the safety net of still working with people that I knew, and I still knew that I could deliver the great service. And then organically, piece by piece, we've just grown from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating taking those leaps of faith, so to speak. And it's amazing how it happens at different stages of life. I've shared my story a number of times, how my dad at 42 became an entrepreneur, I guess, or self-employed, not out of choice, but out of necessity. And he was the worst example of entrepreneur. He just wanted to help people for free, and just a nice guy. He's still climbing ladders at 75. So just survivalist entrepreneur, one man band. The reality that put me off entrepreneurship initially, and I saw I'd never do it. Ironically, I was 42 and I left the sort of formal employ of other people and ventured out to my own thing. And a bit like you, it was kind of consultant, fractional strategy, CFO, and then a couple of years later, obviously started bizval. So it's remarkable how similar those stories, or your story, is to mine, and how those sort of life changes happen. I think nowadays sort of the impression of entrepreneurs, you've got to be a 25-year-old something, Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard graduate, and go build an AI business. The reality is very different. Entrepreneurs who've got life experience and start businesses in their 40s, it's been proven and studied, are often a lot more successful simply because they've got that life experience and they know the real problems. I mean, what's your experience been? Have you found it easier, I guess, being, I hate using this word, an older entrepreneur, or have you found it harder?
Well, I still consider myself, in my head, I'm still a spring chicken, as I'm sure you feel the same. The same goes for all of us, doesn't it? But I do think I'm sure you tell your kids the same as I tell mine. The AI entrepreneurs that step out of university and make millions are one you've probably got as much chance as winning the lottery. So let's face it, it's not that easy. And if it were that easy, we'd all be doing it. I think one of the things for me is that we always laugh in my house because I've always said I've been driven by the fear. As a salesperson, you want to hit your targets because you want to earn that commission. And I've always been driven by the fear of not earning enough money to pay my part of the bills in my household. So I still have that bit of fear. And I think that in a way that's a good thing because that continues to drive me forward every day. I agree with you. I think that life experience is invaluable. I remember my mother telling me many years ago, darling, nothing can replace wisdom, nothing can replace experience. And I remember being a whippersnapper and it really annoying me because I thought, but hang on a second, I've got this amazing education. It's not just experience. And actually now I look back and you cannot replace experience. It doesn't matter how good your education, it doesn't matter how much you've paid for it. Life experience, business experience is priceless. And that really does shape you. And I think that's where, you and I, we, like you say, we come from very similar journeys, backgrounds. And for us, we've seen this gap because of what we've been through ourselves, because of the pain that we've been through in our respective careers. We've gone, well, hang on a second, this could be done better. This could be done differently. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try it and see what happens. And then again, as I say, organically, things build from that moment of inspiration.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to segue a little bit because, and this isn't on the script, but as we're chatting, you spoke about having a sales background, and one of the challenges I guess I've had, I'm trained as an accountant, I've been in commercial, and one of the things I've experienced is like often sales has got this sort of like almost dirty connotations attached to it. It's the sales team. And the one thing I've learned in the last sort of 5 years is that I never considered myself a salesperson. But the reality is sales is the lifeblood of, every single business. How's that background in sales? And you become a salesperson whether you want to or not. Okay.
Yes.
How's that background in sales helped you as you've launched Iconos, in terms of whether it's getting clients, whether it's engaging clients, all those things? What are some of the, I guess the sort of subconscious things that you do that other entrepreneurs might not even think about?
Well, so it's helped me. I think that you saying that sales is the lifeblood of every business, I couldn't agree more. It's the lifeblood of everything. I remember to get some flying time when I first qualified, I went working for banks repossessing houses, which sounds awful, but actually we were called court advocates at the time. So we would literally pitch up to court. We'd be there to repossess houses where people weren't paying their mortgages, but actually I did it for 15 months. I was doing 6 or 7 a day, and I only actually ever got a repossession order on one property. And that wasn't because I was incompetent.
I'm going to interrupt you there and say, despite the appearances, there is a really shady, sharky lawyer under there somewhere.
Well, there's that view, or you could say maybe I just wasn't very competent at doing what I was doing. But actually, the banks took a really pragmatic approach, and their view was we would rather get paid than get the property. So you had quite a lot of jurisdiction to make a deal with the individuals who you were taking to court. But I digress slightly. The reason I'm telling you this story is because I remember sitting in front of a judge in one of the county courts. They were county court judges, and she said to me, you've got this background of sales. Why are you even here? And because we went frequently to the same courts, you'd build a rapport with the judges. So she was like, what are you doing here? And I said to her, well, the thing is, I'm selling you a story, right? I'm selling you a case. I'm giving you the background so that you give me what I need and what I want. And she was like, oh, I never really thought about it like that. So even in court, we're selling. So I think it's helped me massively in my business because I know how to negotiate. And for my clients, it gives me that real advanced experience of being at the forefront of cutting deals. And when you're negotiating a contract, it means that you can be really commercial and you can say, okay, well, I understand that doesn't work for you, but what about if we did it like this? Would that work? And then it's safe for both. So it really gives you an edge on how you negotiate. So that's with clients, and with suppliers, it's the same. If I want to get something, I'm not afraid to ask. Again, it has to work for everybody, but I think if we can consider ourselves as salespeople, it really gives us a big advantage because we all have to sell. We have to go out and find clients. We have to sell to our kids. I would say with my kids, I'm probably the least effective in my sales role compared to all of my other roles in business because they often don't buy what I'm selling. But yeah, it does give you an edge.
Yeah, and I think it also helps build confidence. I mean, again, I'm giving away my age now. It reminds me of before I met my wife, the early days of dating as a scrawny, skinny, spectacle wearing, afro bearing, teenage boy having to go up to a girl and actually speak to her. Nowadays our kids just connect on Snap or WhatsApp, what have you. But I think those things shape you, they form you. You kind of learn to kind of just not be afraid of failure, and I think that's actually what it's about. And sales teaches you that.
Definitely. Feel the fear and do it anyway, right?
Exactly. So I want to shift gears a little bit. Something we've spoken about offline about this, but I know one of the things that really drives you is purpose over profit. And I know, you are very much a purpose-driven leader, businesswoman, mom, person. What does it really mean to you when you say purpose over profit?
So I think for me, it means giving real value and understanding the people around you. I consider myself really fortunate for my clients. Yes, we have to make money for sure. And like you say, we've all been through that period of, giving away too much and not making enough money because actually in our hearts, we want to do the right thing by people. For us, it is about doing the right thing. And it's about doing the right thing for our clients. It's about looking after the people that work with me and for me. And it's about giving back as well. I believe that we can give back to other things in life, whether that's doing a bit of litter picking with the kids, or as you know, I'm a trustee, so I sit on the board of trustees for a palliative care charity that's actually local to me, but we're now in the top 20 of palliative care charities in the UK, and I support them. And I love that because it's such important work, and they couldn't operate without their volunteers. We've got 12 or 13 of us as members of the board. We all have different experiences in life. We're all experienced in our respective fields, and without us, they would find it very difficult to operate. So for me, having a purpose and being driven not just by the money but actually by doing the right thing is really important, and that for me filters through my personal life, through my business. Everybody in my team knows that about me, and are actually very similar and then beyond in where we can give back in other ways, and I encourage that in every area of my life.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's both rare and inspiring, and I think a lot of people, only think about giving back once they've made it. It's a little bit
Mm.
like this notion of retirement. I mean, if you think about
Mm.
our parents' generation, perhaps it was like, you work for the same company for 40 years and then you've got the retirement money and then you enjoy life or give back or whatever. And I think this notion of, actually it's not do it when, it's like do it while.
Yeah.
So how do you think about that? I mean, you've shared a little bit about that, but I mean, how would you encourage other people to move beyond the money? What advice would you have to other aspiring entrepreneurs who kind of worrying about making payroll at the end of the month, lest being on the board of a hospice?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's a number of things. I would say just do it. Just go for it. Like I say, feel the fear and do it anyway. It doesn't have to be a big job. It doesn't, you can do something. And I like this notion of all or something rather than all or nothing. One of the
Yeah,
things, Graham, that drives me is that I know lots of people, I think as humans, we're conditioned, aren't we, to, like you say, do it when we're retired. I'll do it one day.
yeah,
But my view is, why shouldn't that one day be now? I've seen it too many times where people have waited and then they get there and a tragedy happens, and they never get to
yeah.
fulfill those things. And both my husband and I share the view that we should just go for it. And that's what I would say to any entrepreneur. If you feel you want to do something for you, to give back, in terms of, you might not have the time. I don't really have the time, if I'm brutally honest, but I do it because I love it and it feeds my soul. And I think in feeding my soul, it gives me that bit more purpose still to do my job, so my day job at Iconos, and everything makes a chain reaction happen. So my advice is, do it, go for it, all or something. It doesn't have to be a big job, but just take one small step and put one foot in front of the other.
You should have been a marketing director for Nike. Just do it.
I should have done. Maybe I was.
You never know. Maybe you came up with the slogan and you just didn't tell anyone.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to kind of, before we get into sort of a fun rapid fire section, I think let's kind of like consolidate, some of the lessons you've had along the way. So, Erika, maybe if you can just start with some of the sort of biggest learnings you've had on this journey, from corporate IT sales through to law, through to mom, through to just as a person who loves to contribute and give back to society. What are your sort of top tips to any business owners, listeners, advisors, anyone who's listening in today?
Yeah, so thank you. So, gosh, I think I'd probably be here for a week if I were to try and tell you everything that I would say to younger entrepreneurs or other entrepreneurs. But I would definitely say you'll never be ready. So don't wait till you're ready.
Yeah.
Just definitely do it. I would say all or something. Take small steps. Even today when I go out running, which I love. I just think one step in front of the other. So don't wait to be ready. Small steps. Stay really true to yourself and your core belief of what the service that you're delivering or the business that you're building. Lots of people along the way will say, "Oh, why aren't you doing this? Have you considered that?" Advice is fantastic, but always remain true to your core belief, your core value, and where you started, where you came from. And surround yourself with amazing people. If you're the most intelligent person in the room, you're in the wrong room. But build up your people to go beyond where you are and let them fly, because they'll challenge you, they'll hold you accountable, and it will be the best thing you ever do for you and your business.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit like being a parent. I mean, my son is turning 17 and my daughter's turning 14, and I feel like they're getting to that stage now where, where you kind of you've prepared them for life, and now they're getting ready to spread their wings and let them go, and it's hard whether it's as a parent or whether it's as a business leader or an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask one last hard question, and then we'll have a few rapid fire questions, but any real sort of tough challenges along the way? What have been the things that have been really hard for you, or any mistakes that you've made in the last sort of few years?
Yeah, so something that I think we probably all have suffered from at one point or another, hiring the wrong people. So putting the wrong people in the wrong jobs, which causes a big impact to the team generally. So it's not just about the role that they're hired to fulfill and maybe not fulfilling, but actually it's the overarching shockwaves that sends through the team that makes things very difficult. And actually, I think the other biggest challenge I've had is being swayed by others' views. And that's not that I'm unhappy to be challenged by my team, far from it. But actually, like I said in the last question, it's very easy for people to say you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And actually, over the years, we've gone full circle and come back to exactly where we started, which was exactly the gap that I knew was in the market. And that's our target and always has been. So that's been a challenge, because staying on course when lots of other people are telling you should be doing different things is very difficult, both to keep them motivated and to stay on your course of action.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I've made that same mistake many times. I call it learning to trust my gut. I think when you
Yes.
grow up in a corporate world, you kind of like have to prove everything and show everything and back it up with evidence and all of that sort of thing. As an entrepreneur, actually, and we've made that mistake countless times, even with bizval. In terms of people will tell you how to reach your market and how to do this and how to do that, and you think, oh, okay, well, I'll spend the money and have somebody do it for me, and then you realize, actually, you know what, they don't know what you know. They don't have your
Yeah.
experience. So I love that. um Erika, we're gonna end up with a few sort of like rapid fire fun questions.
Okay.
So the first one to you: one book that any founder should read.
Yes. My favorite book, I Am a Badass. And I can't remember who actually the author is, but it's brilliant. If you put it into your browser, you will find it in a nanosecond. Read it, it's
Badass.
fantastic. I am a badass.
Definitely check that out. Okay, I mean now this might be a really tough question. I mean you've got English blood, and clearly there's also some, so I don't know whether Spanish or South American blood. So coffee or tea?
Well, I like both actually, but definitely coffee every morning without fail. First thing I do.
Okay, what's your go-to productivity hack?
Prioritize. That's
Pick one thing and do it.
do one thing and do it. Absolutely.
Okay, three more questions. What is a legal mistake that you see founders or business people make all the time? The most common thing that pops up for entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So no shareholders agreement. They fall out and then they're stuck. They own the business 50-50 and they're stuck in this business together. They hate each other.
I mean, that's interesting. I mean, we talk about, I often have the question, I love your view on it. Sorry, I'm going on a segue, but I often have solo founders say to me, I don't need a shareholders agreement because I'm the only person. I've got a view on that. I'd love to just hear your view on that for our listeners.
Yeah, well, it's all well and good while you're on your own, but you want to bring anyone else in, then you're going to struggle. So set the legal foundations. That starts with the shareholders agreement. Start as you mean to go on, always.
Yeah, I give that same. Not that I'm a legal person, but I've, my sort of ethos is like, even if it's not a shareholders agreement, even if you don't call it that, but write down almost your governing principles and how you make decisions and that. And then if you do bring on a partner, at least you've done the heavy lifting and you know where you stand before you bring on a partner.
Definitely. It also
Um,
helps shape your view of the business from day one, which is really
ab-
where you want to be.
Absolutely. One thing you wish more lawyers would understand about business.
I wish more lawyers would understand that they need to talk to people and not try and do everything by email or in documents.
I love that. And then the last question is, what's your favorite part of running Iconos?
The freedom definitely to do what I want, as in the service that we deliver and having that agility to shape our service to our clients' needs.
Absolutely love that. Erica, I mean, I just want to thank you so much for joining us today. I mean, I think your story, is just it's inspirational. I think it's a masterclass in how to make bold choices in life and transitions and with purpose at its center. Where can people find you? I guess you've got your backdrop there, but maybe just share what's the easiest way, other than on a beach in the south of Spain for the next few weeks. Where can people find you if they want to reach out to you, if they want to do business with you, if they're looking for a proper commercially focused legal partner in their corner? What's the best way to get hold of you?
Thank you, Graham. Yes, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Obviously, my email is showing here. So you can catch me always on email or at iconos-group.com, or on LinkedIn. We have Iconos Group on LinkedIn, or /Erika Moralez Perez. You'll find me there as well. So I'm always happy to talk to people. It's my favorite thing to do.
Fantastic. And to everyone who's listened in today, thank you so much for joining us. I really hope you found some inspiration and took something out of today's episode. If you did, please share it with a colleague, a friend, subscribe on our channel, and follow us at bizvalglobal.com for more insight-led conversations with entrepreneurs, advisors, and deal makers. So until next time, thanks for joining us and have a great day.